All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Android Design in Action. This week's episode is unlike the other episodes that you've seen. This week we're going to have a Hangout, a Google Plus Hangout on air. Oh, right. That's probably a good idea. We're going to have a Google Plus Hangout on air to discuss design, specifically this show or other, top tips or anything that folks may have. I'm, as always, your host, Roman Nurek.
Hey guys, Adam Kosh.
And Nick Butcher unfortunately couldn't join today. I think he's out sick. We've invited him to the Hangout just in case he wants to join, but he'll probably stay home and rest up for next week. So with that, let's get started. We're going to structure the format of this Hangout not like a regular Hangout where we just talk about stuff. We're going to go into a few slides in the very beginning. We want to talk briefly about the Nexus 4 and Nexus 10, very, very briefly, and then at the end we'll have a few slides as well. But for most of this episode, we'll be talking to the folks that have joined to see what thoughts they may have. So let's jump into the slides. So, Android Design in Action. Let's see if I can navigate this thing. There we go. So the Nexus 4 and Nexus 10. As many of you know, these are the newest devices coming from Google. These are the newest devices in the Nexus family of products. The Nexus 4 is a handset. It's 4.7 inches diagonal. You can see all the screen specs here. And the Nexus 10 is a 10-inch device. So it's kind of a new reference device, if you will, for a 10-inch size. Kind of replacing the Motorola Zoom, in our opinion, for pure Android kind of experiences. The important thing to note is that this is, I guess, the first time, Adam, that we've had such a high density tablet display. Before, almost all tablet displays, 10-inch tablet displays have been MDPI.
I don't think any of them have been anything other than MDPI. Right?
Yeah. So they've all been roughly, I guess, 1280 by 800 pixels. So this doubles that. So you now have a crazy number of pixels on the screen. The good thing is that the dip resolution hasn't changed. So your existing layouts will just work. The difference though is that the assets that will be used in those layouts, if you have buttons and things like that, they'll be twice the density. So basically 320 DPI assets.
Yeah. Any assets, I guess, shared from your phone UI.
We should switch over to notes. Yeah, go on.
Hey, good point. Yeah, any assets shared from your phone UI. Obviously the tablet UI on Nexus 10 will just pick those up immediately. But if you have any assets that are specific to tablet layouts, you will need to update to include XHDPI.
Yeah.
Also, for Nexus 4, it's worth mentioning that the width is slightly larger than Galaxy Nexus. It's 1280 by 768 as opposed to 1280 by 720.
Yeah, and that maps to about 24 extra dips, horizontal dips of resolution for the Nexus 4 as compared to the Galaxy Nexus or other devices like that. So that's the new devices. I mean, there's lots and lots of other stuff to talk about, but you guys probably know all these things from all the different press that's been out there. But these are kind of some of the details that are probably important to designers when thinking about these new devices. And then just to recap, we now have the Nexus 4, the Nexus 7, and the Nexus 10, and here are again their rough screen specs, if you will. The other thing we should point out is that launcher icons, as many of you know, when designing for a tablet, for MDPI tablets, I guess the older density or the earlier density for tablets, when designing for MDPI tablets, you also want to provide an HDPI launcher icon, because what the launcher does, and the launcher is that home screen, as many of you know, what the launcher does is when it displays an icon for an app, it chooses the one bucket larger icon because it wants a physically larger icon. So instead of showing a 48 by 48 dip icon in the launcher, it actually chooses to show a larger icon in the launcher. So to get an icon of that high resolution, it basically uses a shortcut. It basically looks at the asset, the same asset at a higher density, and uses that. So on XHDPI tablets like the Nexus 10, that one bucket larger, that one size larger icon is actually XXHDPI, or 480 dots per inch. The important thing to note here is that the tablet itself, the screen itself, is not XXHDPI. It's simply that the framework and the launcher will be looking at XXHDPI. It'll be looking for an icon in that folder. So basically, you want to provide just the launcher icon in 4eDPI and nothing else, because, I mean, everything else would just not be used. So XHDPI for all your regular assets, and then your launcher icon should be in both XHDPI and XXHDPI.
Yeah, and I believe this only holds true for tablets, so Nexus 7 included, but not for handsets. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. All right, and I think that's really all the slides we had. So let's jump into, let me just turn off the screen share here. Let's jump into the discussion. So to get started, I'd say we should all just introduce ourselves really quickly. Like I said, I mean, I'm Roman. We have Adam here. Do you guys want to just go around table and to introduce yourselves? Maybe starting with Akil.
Okay. Hey guys, I'm a 17-year-old Android developer from Ashburn, Virginia. I've only recently started. I finished learning Java and like extensively, and I'm actually going to apply to the Google Computer Science Institute this summer. So hopefully I can see you guys there. I use Fireworks as my program of choice for design, and obviously I like to use Eclipse because it's easy to work with for me. Okay, that's
awesome.
My introduction.
Cool. Okay, you want to move on to Ed?
Yep, hi, I'm Ed. I'm a designer, working mostly Android, but iOS as well. I work for a company called Quite, and yeah, we're working on bringing the Quite up to Holo standards at the moment, still a bit gingerbread.
Very cool. All right, Lyndon, do you want to go next?
G'day, I'm Lyndon Darling. I'm a professional Android developer based in Australia. I make my own apps, also provide Android development to banks and other companies to make their apps. I do a little bit of dabbling in sort of design and multimedia as well. So
Cool. Lyndon, where do you live in Australia?
I'm in Melbourne.
Okay, I'm from Melbourne originally. Hopefully you've met our counterparts in Sydney, out of Sydney, Anchor, Cotwell.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I don't know why they're based in Sydney, to be honest. Melbourne.
We used to have a Melbourne office, but it's not there anymore.
Cool. All right. And Ron, is it Ron or Ran?
It's Ran.
Ran, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm Ran. I'm an Android developer from actually from Israel. So we're covering, I think, the whole world here. Only missing Nick from UK, and then we'll have Europe. Actually, I'm a GDE, Google Developer Expert, and I'm working a lot here in the community and providing professional services to companies or building community events, talking in them, and so on.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the Hangout. And we have two other participants, Oscar and I believe it's pronounced DeAndre, I'm not sure. But if you guys want to introduce yourselves, feel free, although your video is muted. If not, then we'll just move on. Okay, and feel free to join at any point. Is it DeAndre, or am I pronouncing that right?
I'm Dandre.
Oh, Dandre. Do you wanna introduce yourself?
Sure. I am a Android developer. I started a little over a year ago. I'm in San Francisco. I guess I started at the interesting point where you guys were like switching to Holo and 3.0, and then like Ice Cream Sandwich came out, and then like Jelly Bean. So it's been like a pretty drastic change since what I was learning when I started and how it is now. And
yeah, Android has gone under somewhat of a reimagining. I guess the core visual image and basically visual identity has really just gone under a complete renovation since maybe even 2 years ago. So yeah, that's a great time to join. Welcome to Android. And Oscar, we're assuming that you're just kind of a bit shy, or don't want to join, or have video muted or such. But anyway, we'll just get started. Feel free to join in when you're ready. God, I
That's good.
suck at working
No,
Hangouts.
it's good.
Okay.
I think we'll leave it.
So guys, do you want to just start off with like any sort of top tips that you have, or maybe even like favorite apps or anything like that? The floor is really yours. What types of things do you want to talk about?
I was wondering if like I could show like a design maybe.
Yeah, sure. Totally.
And this is my Chrome. I'm working currently. I actually showed Roman this. I emailed him a while back, and it's basically a course organizing app for students that I'm currently working on. And it lets students basically organize all of their courses and assignments and schedules with their teachers and their contacts with their teachers. I have one question. What if you can see my a contextual action bar here? What color should I make that?
Wow, of all the questions. So contextual action bars. I mean, just using the default color is generally fine. In general, like you really want to just hint that it's a different mode. So really, maybe a darker version. If you do want to change it, then maybe a slightly darker version of your core accent color, which seems to be kind of brown. I mean, like the general palette is kind of brown, like a dark burnt orange, and like a tan paper. So maybe something that's somewhere along the spectrum, maybe slightly darker. But I think that the big important point here is that you just want to visually indicate that it's a different mode. So as long as it's fairly different from the standard action bar, it should be okay. If anybody else has thoughts, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's fine to leave it, to be honest, unless you really want to, get that full theming across all the app. I think it's fine.
Yeah, and in general, I mean, like when we talk about Holo, it's there's lots of different guidelines that fold under Holo, this Holo umbrella. One of those guidelines is the visuals, right? But I think for me, the visuals are less important, and what's more important is the interactions, right? So having the checkbox there, right? Having the done button there is far more important than like the specific color of the action bar. Like that is really up to you as a designer to choose, what looks best to you. But really, the core things that you should, be leaving are the standard kind of expected interactions, like pressing the top left area, which should be a checkbox, to close the action mode, having the action overflow there in case there are additional actions. So, it's really for me more about the interaction side of things than the visual side of things. Although the visuals are important, it's really just up to you to make them look good.
Yeah, and one more question. If you were to, like, for the checkboxes here, if you were to, like, if someone was to click on it, do you think it's good for them to, for the entire list item to, like, go to the bottom of the list? Or should it stay there?
The checkbox really means that it's kind of like a completed task?
Yeah.
In general, I'd say, and this is just a general rule, do what people would expect, and in general, what users expect is what they're used to, what they're accustomed to. And so if there's something on the system, especially if it comes with their device, if there's like a system app or platform app that does this exact thing, then just mirror what that does, because that's just what they're going to be accustomed to. In this case, I can't think of anything that anything where a checkbox marks something as completed that's built into the system. So in this case, I mean, you don't really have much of a default to rely on. One thing you could consider, though, is when you interact with something, if it's jumping around, it's going to be hard to continually interact with it. So let's say you wanted to check it, mark it as completed, and then do something else to it. If you mark it as checked and then it jumps down, your finger is no longer at the relevant target, right? So you basically have to jump around there. That's just another minor point. I think it's less important than following conventions, because again, that's just what people are going to expect. But I think in this case, having it jump around too much may be a negative thing.
All right.
Anybody else have comments on that?
Yeah, I guess if you do put it to the bottom of the list and the bottom of the list is actually off the bottom of the screen, then you're probably going to struggle to find that moved item. So maybe try and distinguish it a bit more than just being checked. I know a lot of apps change the color or maybe some kind of strike through or something if it's a done item. That's quite a common pattern.
Yeah, and one of our favorite apps, the Tasks app by Team Tasks, they do exactly that. They just show an additional strike through as an additional visual indicator that something is checked.
Actually, I would go with a swipe to dismiss instead of a checkbox.
Definitely another option. Absolutely another option. We talked about this on not last week, but 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago on that episode. Swipe to dismiss is definitely another option. Nick's very much in favor of that.
Yeah, you can see that in task management, like AnyDo, they're doing it, and I can't think of other apps, but it's very natural to the user to just get things out of his way.
I'm curious on how you would go about implementing the swipe to dismiss. Actually, I mean, I may be going way over my time, so I'm probably like done. But
actually, that's easy. I think Roman, it's your library, right?
Yeah, so I don't know if I keep pressing around. God, these Hangouts are very difficult.
If you leave it up.
So yeah, I wrote a library, well, not a library, a gist on GitHub that basically did swipe to dismiss for you. So for any list view or any vertical linear layout, it gives you that swipe automatically. But one of the differences is that like the item that you swipe to dismiss actually then goes away. And so in some cases, in this case, I don't really know if you want the item to disappear so much as you want to change its visual state. So you may be able to use some of the things from that library, in this app, but I don't think necessarily that swiping to hide the item would work. But.
Yeah, and one thing Nick pointed out the other week was a really nice pattern is to swipe and then have an undo button kind of hiding underneath, and then you tap that and it comes back again. Just another thing to think about.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, Akil, maybe you want to show just one more screen, then we'll move on to other topics?
Actually, no, I was done with this.
Okay. All right. Well, overall, yeah, it was a great job, and like you said, I did see it before. You sent me that email. It was a great job overall. There's just some minor things, but yeah, following that through and publishing it on Google Play. Let us know when that happens, and we'll make sure to take a look and see if there's any sort of promotion we can provide. But yeah, it's a really great start to the job there. So good stuff.
All right, thanks.
Anyone else want to either show their work or talk about? And also one of the options, if you want to rant about something for like a full minute, by all means. There's plenty to rant about, I'm sure. But if you do want to rant about it, that's just another option. But if you have work to show, if you want to get comments from the rest of the folks here, then that's definitely another option. Any takers?
Hey, yeah, so I got a couple of things to show.
Let's see them.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Oh, okay, so I'll be real quick. Obviously, there's the Android Assets Viewer, which I think everyone's going to find very useful. Another thing is a little library that I've been working on that basically sort of extends and fixes up the set error functionality or feature in Android a bit. So I'll quickly show you that. It's
Formidable Validation. That's a cool name.
Yeah. So it's providing like easy validation for forms as well as making the feedback sort of consistent. So you've got set error working for any text view derived class or view, but it doesn't work for say a spinner, or a selector. So basically, you can add set error. You can extend any view and make it set errorable, and then use this validation manager, and it'll just set the error on anything that's got errors on it. So that's stemmed from me having to sort of provide feedback in very complex sort of forms in Android apps.
Very cool. So like if you have even like a checkbox, or like for example, I accept the terms and conditions. If you don't check it, you can have an error bubble show up above it. I'm guessing, right?
Yeah. So that's like a dependency sort of is the way I've categorized or named something like that. So for instance, here, if you're signing up to a newsletter, you click the I want to sign up to the newsletter checkbox. That then makes the email address field necessary. So if that wasn't checked, then you wouldn't be getting an error thrown on that one. So it's got a couple validators, like, generally a lot of people are going to be using the regular expression validator, but you can write your own ones and add them in as well.
Awesome.
So yeah, this is open source, and it'd be great if you guys could have a look, and anyone that's interested in using it or adding to it or extending it gets involved. That would be sweet.
Cool. And what was the Android assets viewer? I remember reading about it a little bit, but do you want to kind of give a brief overview, maybe show some examples?
Yeah, let me just share that one. Tell me if you can see it.
Yeah.
Is that up now?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay, so this again has stemmed from, I suppose, pains that I've found in different contracts, working quickly to make apps and working with designers that are generally new to Android. So basically the idea is you want to provide an easy way to show graphics and look at all of the graphics across your different size buckets, all the drawable variants. So this does that and gives a little bit of analysis feedback, showing you whether your sizes are right, whether you've got like odd pixels, or whether you're going to have like half pixels and stuff. So for instance, this is the assets. I've uploaded the assets from Formidable Validation, that library I just showed you, and you can see them here that it's like showing your different sizes. So you've got your LDPIs, your MDPIs. There's even the XXHDPI in there, just to be super fresh. And here, it's missing an XHDPI, but it's saying that basically if you were to put that in, the right size of it is shown in green, 96 by 96. So
it's basically
just providing...
Does it look at which assets you currently have? So if you have like some random asset that's like 40 by 40 in MDPI, it will show you what the equivalent is in XHDPI and like an empty slot if it's not there?
Yeah, that's exactly what it's doing here, right? So it's all of these are based off MDPI at the moment. I might add something to sort of look at sizing based on other buckets if the MDPI isn't there. But you can see here that the MDPI is 48 by 48. It's suggesting that the XHDPI, it's saying that it's not there and it should be 96 by 96. You can see here that TV DPI is always going to have odd pixels or half pixels, and so it's I guess a way of when you're talking to designers that are trying to give you iOS graphics and don't want to do any more work, this is a great way to sort of bring them on board and show them things. Another cool thing that What's that? Sorry.
How do you actually put your assets into this?
Oh yeah, so you just upload either an APK or a zip file. If you're afraid that I'm going to reverse engineer your APK, which I could do anyway, just getting it off the market, you can just zip your res folder and upload that. So it's looking for a res folder that's containing drawable folders. So you got your drawable LDPI, no DPIs, whatever. You might have your extra large, whatever bucket is there. It's going to show them all.
Awesome. All right, Lyndon, we're running a little low on time, but what's the
last quick thing?
Yeah,
last quick thing. The device viewer. So this is something I added just recently, and it lets you basically view this stuff on real devices, scaled as though it's on that device. So it gives you a real quick glimpse as to how things are going to scale and how those graphics and the different buckets are going to look on different devices at their original smaller size. So in this case, it's a 9-patch. It would scale and be bigger, but you can get a gist for what it would look like at its smallest size. Which is,
all right, and the most important thing, Lyndon, how do you get to this awesome tool?
Yeah, so it's at cerebellum.net, which is like cerebellum if you hold your tongue and say it. / Android Assets Viewer. So I'll just show you there.
Okay, we can post a link up in the Google Plus.
Yeah, we'll definitely post a link afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on though, since we're running a little low on time. I just want to get one last thing from everybody who wants to answer. What would you like to see in a future episode of Android Design in Action? What specific topics would you like us to cover? And let's start, I guess, from Akio.
Crouton versus toasts.
Crouton versus
I'm
toast.
wondering.
Okay.
It's a new library, and I'm just wondering if who's out there using Crouton right now.
Okay, yeah, it's an awesome library. It's definitely interesting to provide a different, a more I guess more contextual toast almost. So definitely a good topic. We'll keep that in mind. Dandre, any thoughts?
I'll pass for now. I have to think.
Okay, all right. Ed or Lyndon or
yeah, I've got a couple of requests. I guess one of them is the production process from graphics to developer, and how you manage that process. Like, do you design an MDPI and then just email over a load of graphics, or do you share some kind of repo? Like, just the whole production process would be quite good. I guess a little bit on fonts and thoughts on including more than just the bold and regular, and whether that's a good idea to do or not. And then tablet apps, like a lot of developers have got mobile apps out there which could work on like a Nexus 7. How much effort should we put in to releasing for a tablet versus making people wait for the app and releasing a custom tablet app?
Totally, and I mean, we did have an episode recently on responsive design, but we're definitely going to do even more on tablet design, since it is kind of it's a nuanced area in designing for mobile, since it's like kind of semi-mobile. But definitely something that we're going to continue to talk about. And those other points, those other suggestions were great. We're definitely going to look into that as well. Lyndon and Ran, any thoughts on things we should cover for future episodes?
Yeah, I mean the stuff that Nick and Marie did at some conference in Germany, I saw a video for that where they did a redesign on the fly and showed how the thoughts that were going behind, and that was really useful and interesting. I think that something like that could be good to do again. You could do it with obviously lots of different apps. You guys are sort of doing that with your look at apps at the moment as well. But I think having the design tools out there and showing how people can do it quickly as well, and also tackling like the big problem of making an app look good on sort of Honeycomb Plus, but as well as old, Gingerbread 2.2, without, say, just going for a pure holo theme and trying to pull that all back. Like, this is the main problem. I know you guys are trying sort of pushing for like the newest style all the time, but the reality is that apps out there and companies want to target as much of the market as they can. And stuff just doesn't look that great. Not everything, even Holo Everywhere, doesn't bring everything back. And so, yeah, if there's any tricks or talking about some of the issues there.
Yeah, so like maybe potentially an episode dedicated at like backward compatibility and designing for earlier devices. That makes a lot of sense. Since that is a very kind of pragmatic view of the current landscape, as most devices are below Android 3.0. So definitely something we should look at. Okay, and Rand, do you have any thoughts on what we should include?
Thoughts and a request. Actually, I've started working on a project which it will be basically car-mounted tablet that will replace the entertainment system, and will also talk with some chip inside the vehicle that talks with other vehicles, other cars, to provide collaborative safety. I don't know if you guys have heard of that standard. It's called 11P, but never mind. We're not gonna go technical there. The idea is that it's a 7-inch tablet that is gonna be used. The application is gonna be used dedicatedly in a car. Needs to be operated by a driver or the passenger, but also by the driver. So needs to be very little interaction with the user, and obviously action bar cannot fit there. It's too small. Things like that. So right now we're banging our head against the wall trying to figure out what will be the best way or approach to show a map, some very necessary and valuable information, and that's it, and still be very responsive and intuitive to the user if he wants to go to other screens. And you've done some amazing job with the design guide, but it's all focused for mobile phones and mobile usage and that stuff. And there's actually Android is going to other areas, and not just handsets, tablets, but also
totally. So basically, like exploring how to design for kind of alternative or auxiliary use cases, right?
Exactly.
So outside of the standard kind of holding a phone in your hand or holding a tablet in your two hands. Yeah, definitely something we can look at. We'd probably need to see a few example devices, right? A few example use cases, but definitely we can kind of imagine what is the next step. You know, designing for the next step or the evolution of Android devices in different areas and different use cases.
And there are some apps that need to do something like that anyway, like navigation apps, for example, that already sort of cater to that use case.
Totally. Okay, so we're super low on time, but we just want to run through a few last slides because we have a little bit more information to share. So bear with us for just a second. So let's just quickly run through news, and there isn't too much news. Actually, the most important bit of news here is that UIstencils.com has just recently released a Android tablet stencil kit, and this is like a physical metal piece of kit, I guess, that you plop down on some paper. You fill in the blanks, and you get your standard iconography. You get your standard widgets, things like that. So if you're looking to kind of sketch on real paper with real pens and pencils, then try to get this kit. And we actually do have an example here, and you're not going to be able to see it. I'll show it after. But the really cool thing is that we have a few to give away. So we're going to be giving away about 10. And so, well, I guess about 10 of these. So the way in which we're going to do this is that we're going to ask the greater community to take a few screens from one of their favorite apps or even their own app, redesign it, using some of the Holo elements that you've seen on this show, and then post it to Google Plus publicly by the end of the week. And when you do post, make sure to use the hashtags ADIA and Android Design so we can see them. And then to the first or maybe the best 10, we don't really know yet, we'll try to send out some of these stencils. And these stencils, I think they retail for like $27 on UIstencils.com. So if you want to just get them, not wait for us to to look at your stuff, then just go to UIstencils.com and get your copy. And we'll post details about this giveaway at some point on Google Plus as well, probably right after the show. Also, I did 2 posts very recently. First on wizard design, like designing a wizard, in this case, one that lets you order a sandwich, very oddly enough. But it's got all sorts of things like dependencies, like dependent sections and things like that. So if you're designing wizards, check out that post. And then lastly, cheat sheets. There's another post I did. Basically, in the action bar, as many of you know, when you long press an icon in the action bar, it shows you a little toast, a little tooltip that pops up and says what that does. This is really useful outside of just the action bar. So if throughout your UI you have icon-only UI elements, you'll want to use something like this to give the user an extra bit of confidence that what they're about to press does what they think. So this is especially important in cases where your iconography may not make perfect sense. So there's a library, I guess another GitHub gist that shows you how you could do this. And that's at this post here. So I think that's all the slides we have. Yeah, I think that's all the slides we have today. Thanks again for joining, guys. We're hoping to do a few more of these Hangouts in the future. For the next few weeks, we'll probably go back to our regularly scheduled Android Design in Action where we will be doing redesigns. Yeah, but look for other invitations to join another Hangout sometime in the next, say, few weeks or next 2 months.
Great.
So thanks for joining, everybody, and I guess we'll see you next week.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys.
thanks
See you
very
later.
much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Yeah.